Hi and welcome to 5 Minutes of Grammar. My name's Michelle and today we're going to be talking about adverbs of frequency. Woohoo! Exciting. Okay, so adverbs of frequency are basically when we talk about how often we do something. So really it's about regularity. So whether we do something a lot or whether we do something a little bit or if we do something at all. So often we use adverbs of frequency when someone asks us, how often do you do something? So that's often a question we ask in English. How often do you go to the cinema? And so it's a way of answering with the frequency of an activity. So if, say, there's something that you do all the time, then you'll say, I always go to the cinema on a Friday night. If it's something that you do all the time without fail, so you always do that. So let's say 100%. Now, sometimes you don't do something all the time, but you know, pretty regularly. So you would say, let's say 95% of the time. You could say, well, you know, how often do you do your shopping at the local farmers market? You could say, I almost always go on a Saturday morning. So it's basically saying there's not much chance that you don't go. So I almost always. Now let's say around 75% of the time, so it's not all the time. You can say, well, I usually do my laundry on a Saturday morning. So it's part of my routine. So it's something that you usually do. Now next, we're starting to sort of go down in the frequency. So we start at always, and then we go almost always. Then we do usually, so that's something that is regular. And next, if we're doing something sometimes but not often, you can say, well, I often visit my parents at the weekend. So often means, let's say, about 50% of the time. So it's not something that is planned on a regular basis. It's something that you do quite often. So you say, I often see my parents at the weekend, but sometimes I don't. Okay, so next we're going down a level, let's say around 25%. So it's something that happens occasionally. So you could say, I occasionally go for a walk in the forest when it's a nice day. So that means it's not something that is very frequent. Now, you can also say, I sometimes. So if Lucy, she wakes up late, which, you know, if she misses her alarm clock, she sometimes misses the bus in the morning because it's very early. And if she doesn't set her alarm at 5:45, she sometimes misses the bus. And so her parents are a little bit upset and they have to take her by car. So she tries not to, but sometimes it happens. Now we're going to go down a level in terms of frequency, and we're going to say, I rarely. So rarely is something that really doesn't happen very much at all. So you can say that Matthew is rarely late for work, or he's rarely late for a meeting. And that means that I can count on him that he will be there on time because he's rarely late. So he's very reliable. Now, also you could say hardly ever. So that's something that happens as well, not very often or very, very infrequently. So you could say hardly ever. Angelique is hardly ever sick. She's a really healthy person and, you know, she's hardly ever sick. So I know that when she is sick, that she's telling the truth. So now just to go down to the lowest level, which is 0%, never. I never tell lies. or I try not to anyway. So never is something that happens on no occasions. So it's something when we really insist. You can say, you know, Claude never forgets to call me on my birthday. So I know every year on my birthday, Claude is going to call me because he never forgets. Okay, so that pretty much wraps us up for adverbs of frequency. I hope it was helpful for you. And make sure just to think about how often do you do something. Thanks for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week for 5 minutes of grammar. Check you soon.